Hello and welcome back to Anything Goes. I'm your 5 Wing 4 host, Madison.
And I'm your 9 Wing 1 host, Caden. And
And
this month we're tackling the Heart Center.
mhm,
Triads.
whoop.
Whoop.
So to start us off, some announcements. This episode is going to be recorded this month, but we're also going to start pre-recording some episodes because there might be a period of about 6 months where I might not be able to record. Um, uh,
Whoop whoop.
whoop whoop. I
We're gonna date
part
ourselves. Watch the entire world fucking collapse, and
yeah.
then we could have had some really great material here, and it's
Yeah.
like we've back we've backlogged all of our episodes, so it's just
Yeah. Well, I'll date this one, and it's February 11th, and this isn't going to come out until the last Friday of this month. Um, so I'm scared to like jinx it about like why I might not be able to, why we're recording these episodes. Part of me is like, if I tell everyone, it's just not going to happen, and then
well, then don't tell everyone.
I know.
Live in your paranoia in your seven or your seven brain. Yeah.
Ah, but yeah, okay. So for right now, I'm not gonna say why we're pre-recording. But if something major happens in the world, you might get like a bonus episode. It'll just be hard to get that bonus episode. So,
I don't know. They might impeach the rapey can of orange Fanta.
oh, please, I hope. Yeah. As of this point, the trial is just going on. And so usually we record the episode closer to its release date, but who knows?
We have a lot of content to get through here.
Yeah.
Um,
So,
any other
warnings.
announcements you want to cover before our just sort of regular intro stuff?
No, I think we should just jump right into the rest.
Okay. You, listener, watching, listening. You can't watch. That's with your eyes. Put some headphones on because we're not safe for work. We're also not Christian and very gay and not professionals.
Hmm. We have a Patreon. Please contribute to it. We have 3 tiers. The first two are regular tiers. The last tier is kind of a joke. The first tier is the contributor. It's $5. You can cancel at any time, so you can just do one of those, or you can subscribe for monthly contributions. The second tier is the benefactor. It is $12. That covers our monthly fees to our monthly hosting fees. So if you donate that, you can be proud to have hosted all of our episodes for 1 month. And then the last tier is the cultist. It is a $600 one-time tier. Um, and we explain it a little more on the Patreon website, but it is so we can get a culty book that is $500, plus you have to be a member of the cult, so there's like member fees, and stuff like that. I guess it's
If you
not
get this,
technically sorry.
Maddie will join a cult.
Yeah, it's not. I
Maddie will
don't know
tell
if it's officially recognized as a cult, but it's culty.
it's
But yeah,
kind of
yeah. So if you do that, I'll join a cult. So yeah.
yep. So let us know. We just got done re-recording a previous episode because of some audio issues, but we're also trying out a lot of new audio stuff going on. So let us know
Mhm.
how our audio sounds.
Yes, and also I want to point out that we just re-recorded the Type 8 like literally 5 seconds ago, so we haven't changed equipment. So this equipment will be for both of them.
Right.
Yeah,
Watch it be horrible.
yeah, yeah. So if you listen to Type 8 and then you actually did email us this time and we're like that was horrible, just expect it to still be here for this episode.
Sorry.
Sorry. And also that will go for any of the episodes we pre-record.
Yep.
Um, and so you'll know when we give you the date that we recorded.
Yep. Just email us anythinggoes@gmail.com or send us a tweet at anythinggoes on Twitter or leave us a review, I guess. That's also a way to reach us. We're pretty
Mhm.
available.
Yeah. And I don't have much free time, but I would really enjoy talking to people. So, all All right, so jumping right in. Question of the month. So we asked the 2s, the 3s, and the 4s who make up the Heart Intelligence Center, what is your favorite unwritten rule? And the reason I chose this question is because the Heart Triad, their focus is shame. And a lot of shame comes from breaking societal rules or not conforming to a lot of societal standards or rules. So I wanted to see if you guys actually enjoyed any of these rules or, what you kind of thought about them. So type 2s really focused on like the golden rule and rules that improved society. Like all the responses I got were so here's a quote, two here, treat others how you want to be treated. And then someone responded who was a 2-wing 3, and they said, yep, golden rule is the best rule. Someone said, as a 2, I also go with the daily saying of be the change you wish to see in the world. So 2s were very like, I like societal rules that make people happy and make the world a better place. Um, do you think that holds up, Caden?
That does hold up. I'm a little bit distracted right now. I'm pulling the 4s in my household.
Like
Are you still there? You broke up a little bit.
I have muted myself because she has declined to star in our podcast, so I'm trying to preserve her.
Oh, if it's just my okay, you know what? Yeah, fine. You can okay. So is it like etiquette, social etiquette, or like?
It could be literally any unwritten rule. So if it's an unwritten rule in your specific household, if it's an unwritten rule in your workplace, unwritten societal rule. So for instance, my favorite unwritten rule is that no matter where you go, if you see a woman who needs like a feminine hygiene product, every single woman will like jump to their need. It could be their worst enemy. Um, and no matter what, everyone's like, here you go, here's a pad, here's a tampon, we got you. And it's just unspoken that if you like don't help someone out, like, and you absolutely can help someone out, that you're just kind of a jerk.
I think my favorite would be this happened to me in high school.
Mm-hmm.
But if a woman is like walking alone and then some creep starts like getting a little too close and comfortable, um, she can go up to any group of women or any other single like person, woman, um, and they will help.
Oh yeah, that's a good one. Yeah.
Happened in college too, twice.
You get approached by creeps a lot.
I
Mm-hmm.
know. I don't understand why.
You're very friendly and also you're just young and attractive, so it does happen.
Oh,
And there are lots of creepy men in the world. I'm gonna go pull Adam.
Okay.
Hey Adam,
Is this another type 4?
fellow 4 person. They're on another video call, so it might be kind of shitty audio. What is your favorite unwritten rule?
None of that got picked up by audio.
What is your favorite unwritten rule?
My favorite? I fucking hate those.
That's been all the other 4 responses I've gotten. All the 4s hate unwritten rules.
Rebecca,
Yeah,
you're special, apparently.
What's
I don't know. I
Rebecca's
couldn't
favorite
really think
unwritten
of one
rule?
until
Rebecca likes that when you see a creepy guy going after a girl, you'd like go help out the girl.
Oh, that's nice, but actually being in that situation is so nervous. Because then it's like, okay, what if a million possibilities in which your intervention is actually the wrong action? Like, horrible.
I
don't like
specific
unwritten rules at all.
I specified when a girl comes up to you and like, hey, this guy's bothering
Why
me,
is
or
that a
this guy's
question that you
following me.
ask?
You're like, I got you, sort of thing.
Why is that a question?
Why is it a question? The question is because 2s, 3s, and 4s are in the shame triad, the heart triad. Why, Adam, you're making that face? Do you feel shame by being in the shame triad? Is that something that gets you?
I feel joy that the knowledge that something exists called the shame triad. You're about to tell me what it is, and it's going to funny name for
I mean, so
anything.
the fundamental premise is that there are three, like, different basic triads. That's the body center, the heart center, and the head center. So our episode right now is on the heart center, which is the shame triad. It's 2, 3s, and 4s. And since shame is socially motivated by, like, breaking societal rules or social norms, the question then is, what norms do you like? You know?
Uh, uh-huh.
You thought of another one?
Yeah. Being polite on public transportation, like listening to music with headphones and like not talking loud on your phone. I like that one.
It's because you commute on the bus.
Yes, but like also old people don't understand it. I tried to explain it to my parents and they just cannot comprehend that like that's social etiquette now.
I feel like a reporter. You heard it live. You heard it live here, folks. Thank you all for your time.
Yes, thank you. Uh, I did get another 4 response, and it was interesting because this 4 was autistic. And so they hated social rules because autism is like, not really picking up on those social cues. And so she was like, I abhor social rules, any and all of them, because they should just be clearly stated and they should
Is
be
that a
written.
5-wing or a 3-wing?
3-wing.
Okay, interesting. Okay,
Mm-hmm.
so the first response, Rebecca, is a 4-wing 3. The second response is a 4-wing 5.
Yes.
So,
So,
for context on
mm-hmm. And then we also got one Reddit response that was a 4, and the 4 just said, "4 here, I don't like rules." Yeah, 4s are just like, nah.
no thanks.
Oh wait, never mind. We got another 4-wing 5. And this one was 4, quote, 4, and the one where guys don't piss next to each other. Kind of just the only one that came to mind. Haha. Late night. So, yeah.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Oh,
On to
did you ask Fra?
I did. So on to 3s. So we did 2s first, then we did 4s. Now we're on to 3s. So 3s, I didn't really get anyone on the Reddit except for a 3 who was like, I still might be a 4, but I'm pretty sure I'm a 3. And it was, if you had the chance to be nice, then why not? And Fra was also very interested in, like, hers was, she had 2. Her first one was that if you have headphones in, people just don't talk to you because they know that they shouldn't bother you unless it's like a real emergency. And then the other one was like in college, like during finals week, all like you get a basically it's a rule that you get a reprieve from some social rules. So like wearing sweatpants, not showering for a week, all of that, you just don't say anything because it's finals week.
You know what? That like makes the idea that that's the one that's great. It's for a 3 in particular who's like, I have to be perfect. And not
Yeah,
really the
that was very
perfect sense,
interesting.
but like the like someone's gonna judge me if I don't do this. That looks like I
Mhm.
have my shit together.
Mhm.
I feel that.
Yeah. And I think a lot of 3s would probably resonate with that one. I can't talk today. I'm just
Did I ever tell you about how I would wear pajamas to high school all
mhm.
the time and my dad got so mad? Not like so mad. He didn't get mad. He didn't get mad. He was just like, "You can't wear pajamas to school." And I was like, "Why not? Like who's going to stop me?" You know, like what?
Uh-huh.
Like I like my teachers don't care. They don't say there's I'm not violating school protocol.
Mhm. I didn't start wearing pajamas to school until sophomore year of college, and the only reason I started doing that is because I started working nights.
I
Uh,
went completely the opposite direction.
yeah.
I wore like exclusively sweatpants and sweatshirts. Okay, so in elementary school I had a school uniform.
Mhm.
And middle school and high school I didn't, so I just wore sweatpants and sweatshirts and pajamas and everything. And then I got to college and I would like kind of wear whatever. And then the last few years of college I actually started dressing nice. And now my office is casual, but I will still wear like like nice button downs and ties.
Mm. Do you think it has something to do with your transness?
I mean, it's definitely like a it's the transness thing, and also the fact that I look like a 12-year-old boy, and so I feel the need to like establish the fact that I'm a grown adult human person. I was at the liquor store today,
Mm-hmm.
and it's cold here. It's in the
Mm-hmm.
negatives, and I had my hat on, I had my mask on, and I just always take my ID out because I always assume that they're gonna card me. They should be
Mm-hmm.
carding me. I look like a 12-year-old boy. And I took it out and I put it down on the counter, and I could see there. I was like, one lady was checking me out, and there was a lady next to her, and she was just looking at me the entire time. I was like, "Hey, how's it going?" And she was like, "Yeah, good." And I was just like, "Oh, are you looking at me because you think I have a fake or something? Like what?" I'm like, I just give off those vibes.
Mm-hmm. But yeah. So that was our question. Those are some answers. I think they were very interesting. And I think they could give us some insight.
I don't
All
know,
right.
maybe.
So let's move on to what are triads, just in general. A brief recap is that there are several different triads, and a triad is a group of three Enneagram types that have something in common: a behavior, a coping mechanism, or tendencies. Um, Triads can be used to type yourself, especially if you are torn between two or three different types, because you can be like, oh, I'm a head center and I'm competency, so that means I'm 5 rather than an 8, you know? So they're a great way to type yourself, and they also help you recognize more of your behavior, especially because they kind of narrow down into very specific kind of subsets of stuff. And so right now we're working on the intelligence centers, as we've said, and these are the perception centers, and they are body and anger, which was our last episode, heart and shame, which is this episode, and the next episode is head and fear. So everyone has access to all of these triads, and that'll be the same for every type of triad. But one triad is your dominant triad, and it's the coping mechanism or tendency or behavior that you go to the most. So, getting into it, what is the shame and heart intelligence center? So, I have some quotes here. Um, would you
There's a
like? Mm?
Yeah, just going back to like what are triads. There's
Oh,
a whole section here of a book called The Sufi Enneagram by Lale Bakhtiar. And I wish that I could understand anything about what she's talking about because it seems super deep. And she talks about three as a number. Because I was just thinking about that. I was like, three shows up a lot in our Enneagram discourse. We've got
mm-hmm,
three sets of three to make up the nine. We've got a bunch of different triads all the time. And like, why is it three? Um, She says
mm-hmm.
that the threefold division of the self corresponds to the three basic movements of the spirit: ascending, descending, and horizontal. Three also corresponds to the threefold division of the self: intellectual, emotional, and volitional, or thinking, feeling, and action, which seems to correspond very neatly to the uh, body, heart, head.
Mm-hmm.
Um, Other terms used for the threefold division are cognition, perception, and motivation. Um, which the heart would then be the motivation center of that. Reason, attraction to pleasure, and avoidance of harm, pain.
Mm.
Which sounds like another triad.
Yeah,
It sounds like she's describing all of the triads here, right?
yeah.
Reason, commanding to the positive and holding back. Repulsing or preventing the negative, which would be positive outlook. The most basic instinctive level of relation to nature originated by God. Three relates, first of all, to the natural instinct to preserve the possibility of an eternal, that is, self cognition, reason, the spirit, the intellect, wisdom, both theoretical and practical.
Hmm.
Secondly, to the natural instinct to preserve the individual, avoidance of harm, pain, defensive aspects of the self. And thirdly, to the natural instinct to preserve the species, attraction to pleasure, offensive aspects of the self.
Okay.
But she just has the Heart Triad as behavior, as the ABC of self, affect, cognition, and behavior. I'm sorry. I wanted there to be like a deep understanding in this, like secrets in this book, but I have read it and I still don't understand anything about it.
I would have to dive in a little bit more for twos being the behavior, because they're mostly the feeling center, and like the like body center tends to get wrapped up in action and behavior a little bit more.
She has the ABCs of self. It's a diagram. It says the ABCs of self, 3 segments, and she has them into affect being the head center, cognition being the body center, and behavior being the heart center. And then she also has it as avoidance of harm being the heart center, attraction to pleasure being the head center, and reason being the body center.
I would have to hear her reasoning behind behavior, because it still doesn't because behavior, everyone exhibits behavior. I don't think behavior can just be a Heart Triad thing. Like, that's what we're characterizing when we do this. Is
she correlates that to 3 sources of energy. The liver or gut in the affect, the physical heart in behavior, and the brain in cognition. Which seems to me like she's suggesting that the body center is actually head, and that the head center is actually body.
Yeah.
This is a rabbit hole to go down, and maybe we don't need to go down it in this, but it seems like while we're talking about what are triads, I wanted to look into.
Yeah. Okay. I think we need to devote an episode or two onto that kind of.
What is Y3? What are Y triads?
More just the Sufi Enneagram itself, because I feel like it doesn't really match up with the traditional Enneagram. I mean, it does. It definitely takes it there. But I feel like there's enough of a difference that we need to devote it to its own episode. So I feel like it's contradicting everything.
Yeah, I mean, because she has the brain up top and then the heart in the heart center, but the gut, liver in the head center.
Yeah.
Which she switched 2 of them.
Yeah.
Okay, that's a complete tangent. Complete tangent.
Right.
Anyway.
So let's move on to the shame, and specifically what is the shame and heart intelligence center. So the heart center, or it's also known as the feeling center and referred to that a lot. So quote, the heart or feeling center is home to Enneagram type 2, 3, and 4. While these numbers all seem rather different, they share the same heart instinct as opposed to gut or head centers. 2s, 3s, and 4s all take in life through their feelings with their heart, and generally respond based on what their feelings are telling them to do. 2s, 3s, and 4s are all concerned with image seeking, attention, and their underlying issue is shame. And then I have a quote here that I think is going to really set us up for the rest of everything and how we explore these in each type, which is why their feeling and shame is at the center of them, which is, quote, at some point in their development, 2s, 3s, and 4s feel that they have lost these essential qualities, that they have lost contact with their value and their identity. They adopt a false belief that they are worthless, leading up to an underlying feeling of shame. And so a lot of this center stuff is going to focus on how each type identifies with their feelings of worthlessness, the ties to their identity, and the ties to their value.
I think the shame bit is interesting because you can think about it in a couple different ways. And one is like, why is it shame and not guilt, right? Because they're very similar emotions. And guilt being something of like, I did something wrong, and shame being something like, I am something wrong. And that tying into this idea of identity. And I don't know. Here's a website, EnneagramDepot.com, random internet search. But they talk about how for the heart or shame triad, um, they have a chronic sense of shame, which has it's wrapped around this sense of their right to be without having to do, and this idea of identity. So you can think about it that way, and you can also think about it as like, so the way that I do therapy. Everyone should do therapy, in my personal opinion. But when my therapist talks about shame, they talk about it in the sense of like it's a barrier that is trying to protect us from something. And so tying back into that identity idea of like the shame is a barrier to the idea of a personal lack in your own identity and like a lack in your being. I don't know.
Interesting.
Okay. Moving on.
Yeah. So there are also some other things that get tied into the intelligence centers, which are the center of expression and the centers of structure. So the center of expression is kind of where we get into most of the time. It's very rarely referenced, but in case you do come across it, the center of expression for the heart center would be when they talk about the feeling center and when they talk about all the feelings. And that's center of expression is kind of it's literally how your center gets expressed. So here's a quote about the center of expression, which is the center of expression um, comes across as warm energy and relates to the gifts of emotional self awareness, connection, and relationships. The feeling center brings open heartedness, enabling us to connect to the needs and feelings of others, as well as ourselves. Individuals with highly expressed feeling center tend to be inclusive and collaborative when solving problems. Taken too far, excessive feeling can display as overly sensitive, volatility, or emotional manipulation. When the feeling center is expressed intelligently, it is empathetic, receptive, and authentic, able to give and receive feedback and feelings without losing balance. But yeah, so I just wanted to give you that quote about centers of expression if you do come across it. Yeah. And then center of structures, I'm not going to go into very much because this is kind of the center of structure deals with kind of the main issue of the type center, which would be shame for this one. And if you go to the integrative 9, they explicitly say that it can kind of cause confusion. We're also not going to dive into it very much because this kind of area is where like tri-types kind of came from. It was Naranjo's original idea. Well, Ichazo first stated that we have a trifix, which is one fixation from each intelligence center. And then Catherine and David Fauve expanded on that idea, which became tri-types. But Naranjo, which is more commonly used in Enneagram circles, kind of focused around intelligence centers as we see them now. So, anything to add?
Nope, I think you're covering it.
Yeah. Just some.
Can we move on to type 2?
Yes.
Diving into how these folks relate to their center.
Yes, and this one I've been really ready to talk about. So, in each intelligence center, there are 3 types. There's the external display type, there's the disengaged or repressed type, and there's the internal deny type. So 2s are the external display type. And so 2s take their internalized shame and try to create an image of a good person that they kind of display to people or present externally. So I have some quotes here, which is actually, I'll just read one of them, which is type 2s tend to be very caring for others to obtain good regard so that they don't feel shame. They create an image of being likable and needed, but they have difficulty knowing their own feelings and needs. They often know or think quote, there are many people that could not survive without me.
That
So,
sounds like so much work.
hmm and so what I really wanted to, oh, yeah,
Nothing, it sounds exhausting.
okay. Um, okay. So, what I wanted to discuss was an idea that I've seen brought up a couple times, but more recently, I have seen it brought up by ContraPoints. And it's an idea of, quote, the good gay or, quote, the good trans. Um, and it's basically the idea that some gay people or trans people will get mad at others in the community because they're not being good gays or good transes. And they'll say that because of this person's actions, the rest of the group is getting stigmatized. And so there are whole like video YouTube accounts that are like trans people calling out other trans people for basically not being good transes. And it feels very true to me because it's that shame, and they're using that to kind of it's also kind of three, but they're using that to kind of cultivate an image. And it's like, I'm going to be the quote good trans or the good gay so that I don't have to feel shame, so that I can be like, oh no, that's those other people, I'm not shameful, see, I'm like you, I'm the quote good trans or the quote good gay. And so I wanted to
This
see
is
what
how
you
you get gay conservatives.
exactly, gay
Well,
conservatives, trans Trump supporters, stuff like that.
and it's the this is the thing about the I don't know. I always point out the irony inherent in all of these things because I think it's really funny.
Hmm.
But like the idea that I don't know if I'm using irony right.
Maybe let's
Sorry,
see
that
the
just occurred to me. That I like that I'm like maybe I'm just like I've been saying this is so ironic and it's not actually ironic at all and everyone listening is like fucking Caden, it's not actually how you use irony. I don't care. Anyways, I derailed myself here.
so it's
Oh,
ironic
but
and you
that like the shame,
hmm
like it's so depending upon other people in certain ways, but
hmm
actually is so self-serving.
yeah.
Because when I think about stuff like that, where I'm like the good gay or the good trans, or like
Hmm.
even discourse that's around like people who are like conservative in some ways that don't affect them, but then like, oh, but I want rights, you know?
Hmm.
And
Yeah.
like people who are racists but also queer. And you're like, well, why do you why do you support that policy stuff that like wants to take away rights for some people and
Hmm.
not realize that they're really coming for you next? Um it's the like I think I lost it. I think that's what this is how you get gay conservatives
Yeah.
is the good
And
gay.
and the
It's
thing
it,
is,
it
I think it further like that externalized, like I'm gonna put this out here that I'm like the good person, and it doesn't like, I think the trans and gay example in here is just one of the easiest ways to conceptualize it. I know it happens in other things, but the thing is, it sets you up for so much more shame because on your bad days, so like for instance, if you're say a trans person, on the
mhm.
days that, and you're someone who prescribes to the like quote good trans um like ideology, on the days that you're not passing or the days that you're not being that quote good trans, I think it just sets you up for so much more shame. And so it just feeds
Yeah.
into it. And it's just a never ending cycle. And not only that, but you are helping the establishments keep that shame in place. Like
And you
you,
know
mm-hmm,
the shame thing too, it being about like who you are fundamentally and not what you do, which would be guilt,
mm-hmm,
is that you can't change it.
mm-hmm,
If you're bad once, you're always bad,
yeah,
you know? which is the really fucked up bit about it, you know?
Yes. And so
Because you
it's just
can't ever get better, which is
uh-huh.
why it's a self-fulfilling prophecy in some ways. Because as soon
Mhm.
as you are shameful in one way, there's no way to stop being that.
Mhm. But yeah, and I just wanted to talk about that with the twos because I know this can also be like a three thing, or I feel like it's probably less a four thing because they're internalized. But the thing is, I think that more twos are the ones that would be doing it on purpose, and threes would be the ones doing it without really understanding that they're doing it.
Threes would threes would do it mostly because they expect themselves to be that way, you know?
Yeah. Mhm.
And they're doing that sort of internal external wishy-washy thing.
Yeah. So, I don't know. I just thought that was interesting, and especially since we are LGBTQ friendly, I knew this would. There's so much shame wrapped up in the LGBTQ, no matter what you are, and so I knew this would end up popping up here. I was like, how can you not talk about LGBTQ stuff when shame comes up?
Oh shit. I'm sorry. I just had like a really I am having a like I am reevaluating a conversation I had with my uncle
Yeah.
through the lens of shame. So he's a 3
Mhm.
and he's a black man.
Mhm.
And after I came out, I had a conversation with him about masculinity because I was very interested in having conversation with the men in my life about what their identity means to them. And that sort of conversation about gender also led into conversations about race and how he feels about like his gender stuff, and how he feels about his racial identity, being a black man, growing up in, you know, a majority white context. There wasn't a lot of other black kids in the area where they grew up. And he expressed to me like the idea of like I want to be seen as a person first. Like I want to be seen as a man first and then a black man second, kind of. Or like I don't
Mhm.
want that to be a defining factor. And I'm just thinking now about like how those ideas of shame can crop up in racial trauma too.
Oh yeah.
In that like it's not even the like I'm a good like oh I'm a good black man or whatever. You know, like it's not even that
Mhm.
explicitly. It's the like internalizing traumatic experiences,
Mhm.
right? As that having that be the outcome, you
Mhm.
know?
Yeah. And I thinking about this, it made me so as someone in the head center and is not very connected to their feelings and stuff, and not really connected to shame as much. Like it's not that I don't feel shame, but it's that I'm not acutely aware of it. And so later on I'll be like, "Oh, there was some shame there." Like that's what that feeling was, you know? And so I couldn't imagine being like an LGBT person or um a black person in the shame triad. Like that must be exhausting to have those
Because you
social
have a whole
pressures.
society telling you that
Mhm.
fundamentally something about you is fucked up
Yeah.
when you're already predisposed to think that something about you is fucked up.
Oh my god, that would be exhausting.
And I bet there's a lot of mental gymnastics that you have to go through and shit you have to work through just to get to the point where you're okay being yourself.
Yeah.
Imagine trying to grow out of that
God,
to
that
a
would
point where you're
just
like,
be.
fuck society.
Yeah. Oh my god, I'm just thinking about how much shame society has out there and like, like fat shaming and stuff and like imagine being like our society shames so many things. And so just
Yeah.
imagine being in the shame center and just your existence actively being shamed and then oh.
Well, and I would propose,
Mhm.
not that I have any expert advice to give, really.
Mm-hmm.
But I would propose that one of the ways out for people is often a more intellectual, like that meeting of the intellectual and emotional,
Mm-hmm.
if that makes sense.
Yeah.
Like the understanding that the reason why you are sometimes pressured to feel shame is because society is telling you that it is
Mm-hmm.
shameful, and that is a basis of power dynamics that don't reflect reality in terms of any actual value system, you know?
Mm-hmm.
Like you can just decide, and well, that probably leads to a lot of existential crises though, where people are like, well, I should just be able to decide not to be ashamed about this.
Yeah, and it's just not that
And then it's
simple.
not, that's not really how it works. But
Yeah.
I bet integration comes in the meeting of that that understanding of, well, the reason why I think that this is bad is because I've been conditioned to think that this is bad, and the actual like emotional feeling of it.
Mm-hmm. So interesting. I have been falling down a rabbit hole of like just shame videos in general, especially since like I was having a crisis again about whether or not I'm bi or a lesbian.
As you do.
Yeah, I do. I do that a lot. I think I am bi still, but I think I definitely lean towards women, but I have to keep affirming myself. And maybe that's just biphobia, internalized biphobia, because there is a lot of pressure to just pick a side. But then again, I'm examining my feelings, and I'm also wondering if I was pressured into liking men and like performative or not what is it what is it heterosexuality
Compulsory
yeah,
heterosexuality.
compulsory heterosexuality. So I'm very conflicted about like, do I feel this way because of this, or is it this motivation? So I'm still trying to dig that out, and I do think I will always settle on the um bisexual as my identify, I don't know, whatever, my sexuality, because simply bisexuality is an attraction to two or more genders, and I do and have always been attracted to non-binary genders, and so there's always going to be at least women and non-binary people. So I'll I'll always be bisexual. It's just going to be my relation to how that relates to men in general. But yeah, so back to twos.
Back to twos after
Yes.
rabbit hole tangent land.
Mm-hmm. So twos, um, there are some challenges with the heart center. And the challenges of that is that twos can be prideful, twos can be dependent on approval of others, they can be intrusive, and they can be kind of privileged. And I think that that's what really kind of drew me into the like,
That's the good trans thing, or the good
mm-hmm,
gay thing. It's
yep,
that privilege. Well, because for a
and
lot of people,
prideful.
yeah.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. But you were saying for a lot of people, it's.
Oh, just that for a lot of people, like they're privileged in enough ways that they feel like they can ignore the one way that they're disadvantaged by the system, that they'll like be able to get by.
Mm-hmm.
Because all the other ways the system's working for them.
Yeah. Yeah. But twos also have some strength for being in the heart center, and that's that they're caring, they're helpful, they're relationship oriented, they're generous, and they're sensitive to others' feelings, and they're supportive and exuberant. But yeah, and I think that's good on twos. I'm trying to see if there's anything else
I think we pretty much covered it. Type 3s.
Oh, here. Some of the negatives. Quote, sometimes the twos get into situations where they are not needed. Since twos get their worth from helping others, they need to be needed. They will still try to find ways to help others, even if it really isn't required. With the best intentions, twos can start to become intrusive and meddlesome and try to make others dependent on them. That's also kind of it's a different take on twos, and I think that would probably be more centered to twos who aren't necessarily in a minority kind of position, is that that's how that would kind of crop up into a more privileged set of twos, is that they would start delving into that prideful side of like, I know what's best for you, and like putting that out because they're trying to distance themselves from that shame.
What do you think the demographic breakdown is of people who do Enneagram stuff?
I think it's mostly white Christians.
I feel like it's mostly white Christians and also a lot of white Christian women.
Yeah.
Like, that's the vibe I get. I don't
Mm-hmm.
know if it's accurate or not.
It definitely is, and that can be. That's why I think it can be hard to find stuff that I necessarily vibe with, you know? Because I'm the counter type of as a 5. And like I'll still vibe with a lot of it, but a lot of the stuff that will be phrased will be like, in this heterosexual relationship, this is what something will happen, and I'll be like, well, that doesn't really apply to me.
They also just like very often sources completely ignore existing social power dynamics and structures and how people are impacted by them.
Yeah. So and I've started to examine, because like I have, like, there was a time when I really was like, I don't know if I'm a 5-wing-4. Like I at first I was like, yeah, I'm a 5, and but then as I learned about 4s, I was like, well, maybe I'm a 4. And what I realized is that it's kind of just the sources that I've been reading, and that yes, a little bit of it is that I'm a 5-wing-4, but also a lot of the sources are not aimed towards me. Like, I'm not a male in this kind of, I'm not a white privileged male,
Yeah.
I'm not even a particularly privileged woman. I have white privilege, obviously, but I grew up in a
coming from very much socioeconomic privilege or like, you know, heterosexual privilege.
Yeah. So, and also I'm not Christian in an area where being Christian means you are heavily privileged.
Yeah.
Which it's not as stigmatized as some of the other religions around me, but because I'm just atheist/agnostic. But yeah, so I don't know. Moving on to 3s, I guess. Unless you had another point.
No.
Okay.
They think all 5s are my father, pretty much.
Yeah,
and point. It's like they think all 5s are my dad, who, has his cat and his collection of board games and does computer IT work.
Yeah, and that goes into like, in most books you'll see that like 5s being mistyped as 2s is a common thing. Because if you don't recognize the motivation, it could be very obvious. Like, I love to cook and I love to cook for other people, but it's not because I care and it's not because I'm trying to win their love. It's because I'm trying to perfect recipes. Like, I've been trying to perfect this hot sauce recipe for like a while now, and I want data and I want feedback. So please eat this hot sauce that I made, But that could be seen as very 2-like behavior if you don't understand where I'm coming from, You just think, oh, I'm providing this food and like caring. I think you even originally first typed me as a 2 because of
2. When I first told you about the Enneagram, I'm like, you seem like a
2. And it was because I was like, oh, the thing is, so what happened is we went to a restaurant and Caden couldn't find anything to eat because he's vegetarian and it didn't have vegetarian options. And so he was just like, it's okay, we'll eat here. And I was like, no, we need to find somewhere where we can all eat. And I think he thought it was because I cared about like whether or not he was eating. In reality, it was more because I'm like, okay, now we're slightly inconvenienced because now we're gonna have to make an additional food stop that's gonna take time for him to eat, and we can't enjoy this gay pride festival as much because we're having to stop for like 2 people to eat.
It was very practical.
Yeah, and it came off.
I was all touched, thinking that you really cared. I was like, oh, look, friend.
As we became closer, it became more of a like, okay, this bitch needs to eat. But yeah. Right. So moving on to type 3s.
Okay.
So type threes are in our little circle of death, as we have put it. And that's because they are the disengaged slash repressed. So they feel the shame and their feelings kind of the most, but they repress it so much. So they're removed from it and they don't realize when they're feeling it.
Shit's intense.
Yeah. So
Exhausting to be feeling it all the time.
mhm. Also, we mentioned this in the last episode and we dived a little deeper into it. But another problem is that threes, sixes, and nines all integrate and disintegrate to the disengaged portion. So they don't have the benefit of going to external they it's harder for them to grow their emotions or their body or their head because they're integrating to the repression center of it, whereas everyone else integrates to either an internal or an external expression. Also, on either side of them is the same center, so they don't even have the added benefit of wings. So that becomes very hard for threes to grow past their shame and connect with their body and their head.
I'm having such a hard flashback right now to Indian Matchmaker. Have you seen that?
No.
It's on Netflix.
Mm-hmm.
Um, but there's a three. I think I actually deleted the screenshot, which is sad. Let me see if I can find it. Um, but there's a three, and they set her up on some dates. It's very hard to get her a match because she just won't really like. She can't mesh with people. She does get a match eventually, but she's going and having dinner with this guy. Um, and they're chit chatting, and he was like, "Well, what would you do if you had like a week of vacation? Like, what would you spend it on?" And she was like, "Why would I need a whole week of vacation?" And he was like, "What? Wait, what do you mean?" And she was like, "No, I think I'd get bored after like day 3 or something. Like, I don't need a whole week."
Was she a type 3?
She's so 3. Let me.
Yeah.
I'm gonna see if I can find. Hold on.
Oh my god.
So that's the. Why would I go lay on the beach for more than 3 hours? And also, talking to a fellow lawyer. I'm surprised you like being a lawyer, which is also my career.
Oh my god. Uh, I do get 3 vibes from her, but I also get, I don't know. Is she just, where is she? She's, I can't, is she like just super 3? I don't know.
I just think she's that detached. I don't know,
Yeah.
maybe. Okay, listeners, if you've seen Indian Matchmaker, send us an email or tweet at us or leave us a comment or something about what you think Aparna is Enneagram wise. If not, go watch it and then do that.
I'll link the video in our show notes and I'll
Yeah.
maybe tweet it out. I
But
don't
just
know.
like that to me, that whole thing about like why would you need 10 days to relax seemed very 3.
Yeah, that definitely did seem very 3. And she is very detached from shame and like,
The
I don't
whole like
know.
I like me, but I don't believe her at all.
Yeah, that's so weird. Okay, so some type 3. This is more on type 3s. Type 3s feel conflicted with their shame and create an image of success. Oh, she is a type 3. Oh,
Yep.
I just figured it out because she's
Yep.
trying to be so nonchalant about, like, oh, you like being a lawyer? I just kind of did it, you know?
Yep.
It's the nonchalant 3 image of success.
I didn't have to really even try. I'm just this good.
Yeah. Like, I don't like being a lawyer. I just do it, you know? And,
But
you
I
know?
actually think though that she genuinely doesn't like being a lawyer. She
Yeah,
just
that's
does
true.
it because it's like a good profession to have because
Yeah.
you need money if you go work for a big law firm. So like
Oh,
and I will say this, I had a friend in college who was a 3, and it was so interesting to watch him because he would do stuff like, um, and this is where I think like, the good gay thing for may work for a 2, but for a 3, it's kind of hit or miss because sometimes it goes that way, and sometimes it goes the complete opposite way where you really embrace gay culture. He's like a very stereotypical gay man, you know, like a flamboyant twink.
Yes.
And he went to law school straight out of college, and he was always so concerned about like the image that he was giving off because he knew at some level that he was a little bit self-centered, but like didn't like being self-centered, so he'd try to like counteract it, but it would make him more self-centered. So for example, he threw a get together where he announced that he had been accepted to this law school and he was going to go to school. But he didn't frame it as that. He framed it as just a get together. And then he's like, by the way, I have an announcement. And here's the announcement. But he was like so concerned that people would take it the wrong way if he threw a party for himself that he wouldn't do it that way. He's like, I don't want you guys to think that this is why I threw the party. We're all like, dude, we know that this is why you threw the party. It's okay. We will come to the party if it's just to celebrate you getting into law school. In fact, if you say that, we will bring you gifts and stuff. Like we could celebrate for you. But like the idea that was an acceptable, that you could like just like brag without bragging, that it was okay to actually celebrate that because you worked hard for it, that he would have to admit that he worked really hard for it,
Yeah. Interesting. It's so interesting. The 369 is just very I don't know. But anyway, so I have some more quotes here a little bit. And so quote, type 3s are the most out of touch with their feeling. They need positive feedback and affirmation from others. They find value and self-worth through accomplishment and performance to resist feeling shame. They tend to project an image of success and seek admiration of others and are very goal-focused. Yeah. So I'll lead into some of the challenges of the 3, which are they're image driven, they're overworked.
They can't lay for more than 3 hours on a beach.
Yeah. They're impatient, competitive, and they're out of touch with their feelings. But their strengths are that they're enthusiastic, they are action oriented, they are problem solving, they are successful, efficient, practical, and competent. They work very well with 5s. I love 3s.
I think 3s also make really great parents.
I think they did too. Oh, I had so it was Katie's birthday, and we had dinner with her aunt, and her aunt is definitely a type 3. And it was, I just loved her. She just gave off this energy, and she was talking about this like one time that she went snowshoeing and just made a bunch of friends because she was drunk and talking, and I was vibing with her so much. We're friends on Facebook now. I don't know where I was going with this. I don't know if it threw anything out there, but like I just love 3s. I just vibe with them so much.
I think that there's something of like, well, I don't know. I can only speak to the 3s in my life. Specifically, like my uncle, who watching him transform as a person as he had kids and like became involved in raising them and being a part of their life, and like there's an amount of emotional development that happens. Well, hopefully you emotionally develop as you're charged with taking care of another human life. And like, but like having to be emotionally available for other people, I think is a way for 3s to get in touch with themselves and who they want to be, and it like will kickstart their growth.
Yeah. I'm gonna see if I have any more good quotes, if we can move in. Here's how it can be negative, how it can negatively impact themselves or others. So Also, like twos, threes reject their authentic self in favor of a more valued identity. If threes do not get the attention they demand from others, they are likely to promote themselves and their accomplishments, perhaps exaggerating or becoming untruthful. Increased levels of shame may erupt as hostility by insulting others and putting them down to temporarily feel superior, which is what I think we were seeing with the girl in the Indian matchmaker,
Yeah.
because a lot of it is her putting others down, and I think it's so
She's
she
really
can.
not vibing with any of the guys that they, they
Mhm.
set her up with. She's like competing with them almost, like
Uh-huh.
which is why I always get threes and eights confused.
Yeah, because they can be, especially if threes are in this kind of area.
The threes are there and they're in
Mm-hmm.
stress and they get aggressive.
Mm-hmm. I
Those are,
wonder if that girl is a lesbian.
huh?
The girl on the Indian matchmaker.
You
She
think she's
just
gay?
Yeah, because she just doesn't seem into the guys like at all.
I think she gets together with one of them at the end. I think that they actually the
But
one
that
that
doesn't mean anything.
spoilers.
That doesn't really mean anything,
Yeah.
especially if someone's so wrapped up in shame. And I'm not very familiar with Indian culture, but it seems like it's not very LGBT friendly.
They do have a cultural sort of analogous to trans,
They do. I remember, but
but it's I mean it's you can't really one to one map it because it holds a different
yeah.
meaning and value.
Mm-hmm. I think there's a stronger push from parents to, or at least as strong, to not be gay because they want that family and they want the grandchildren. And there's a very, Indian culture seems like a very family focused, and the family ideal is kind of there.
I think it's more common to have your parents live um, either with you or super close to you.
Mm-hmm. And definitely, it's still, especially. So I worked with, uh, his name was Tej, and we worked together. He was from India, and he talked about, he was so cute. I don't know what type he was. I think he was probably a two, because every day he wanted to talk about his wife, and he was so excited because he was from India and just an exchange student, and how he was one of the few people that he knew that actually got to marry for love.
Oh,
And so he married his partner for love, and how they would go out on like double dates with other couples their age who had been like who had had arranged marriages, and how he sometimes felt a lot very different from them because he and his partner were actually like in love,
mm-hmm.
and like he could tell that, as opposed to other people who were just kind of like, oh, we're together, and they were
Works.
like, yeah, it was very interesting. I miss Tish. He would show me pictures of his wedding almost every night, and it was so adorable.
I
He
have
was a two.
like a mixed feelings. I feel like this is the when the 3 and the 6 in me come out.
Mm-hmm.
Where I'm like, I would kick ass at a situation like that. If I were expected to do like an arranged marriage where my family set me up with stuff, I would be the best at that fucking thing. I would be so awesome at it. And then I realized that like there are so many things about me that aren't normative, and I actually would be very, very bad at being normative if I tried to be normative. I forget sometimes.
No, see, that's the thing. I know I'm not normative, and like, so my family, there's a big push for me to join the military or like the Air Force, because my father was in the Air Force, and my brother and sister are both Marines, and they're like, you would do so
What would that
well.
do for you?
It wouldn't, and that's the thing that they don't understand, especially since I'm not
You already got your
normative.
college degree.
Mm-hmm. And well, the thing is, they're like, so there are two types of military personnel. There's the enlisted, and there's the officers. The officers have to have a like degree, and they're like, they start out at a higher rank as all of the enlisted, even if that enlisted has been in the military for like 20 plus years. And so they're like, you could go in making a really high salary and not have to do anything, and you could get to travel from that. And I'm like, yeah, but I would lose control, and I'm not normative So like the things that I would lose control over would be integral parts to like my identity, you know?
Mm-hmm.
And like it wasn't too long ago that like don't ask don't tell was still a thing, you know?
Mm-hmm.
And I mean, there was a trans ban not too long ago that just got
They just
lifted.
lifted
Like,
it like a couple weeks ago.
yeah.
I
And
can
so,
join
like,
the military now, y'all.
yeah. And it's just like at any moment, if I join the military, my sexuality could be weaponized against me, or I could have to conform depending on who gets in office. You know, if we get another Trump in office who decides he doesn't like gays, well, then I have to be on the don't ask, don't tell end of the spectrum, or even worse. You know, it's not a secure environment for me, whereas my normative brother and sister, who are both sixes, find stability in that environment.
And that's why I'm saying it's that 6'3" part of me that's like, I
Mm-hmm.
could definitely fucking kill in the.
Mm-hmm.
I could kill in those situations. I would do so great at being
Mm-hmm.
a little robo person.
But yeah. All
But
right. Do you have anything else to add about threes?
no.
Okay. Let's see. Let's move on to type four. So type fours are the internal / deny portion, which you would think that deny would be in the repression portion, but the thing is, it wraps up into the internal because they don't let other people see it, and they try and deny it to themselves, but all it does is it becomes like internalized. So type fours internalize their shame and create a unique identity.
This is
Um,
where shame becomes a barrier. When I was talking earlier about thinking about shame as a barrier,
mhm,
um, shame as a barrier to the self and
mhm.
self reflection, like actual self reflection.
Yeah. So and so and it's very counterintuitive again because so I have a quote here that fours tend to focus their feelings inward in hopes of avoiding deeper shame, but the more you internalize shame, the deeper it becomes. And so it's very counterintuitive and it just feeds into a cycle. And I have one other quote here, which is type fours tend to look for reasons why they are unique and different compared to others. They create and sustain moods and use their emotions as a way to defend against rejection. Through dramatizing their losses and hurts, they avoid deeper feelings of shame and draw attention and pity from others. I, I
Fours
feel
are
bad.
dramatic.
Yeah, I feel bad for
In the literal technical sense, they're dramatic.
I feel bad for fours because I feel like we had deep examples of the other two, but I don't have a very deep example of
Example
them.
for how fours move away from themselves.
Yeah,
I mean,
aside from discussing the barrier to the self.
well, like I don't know. I live with a four,
Mm-hmm.
and it's funny because so I'm in a relationship with a seven, and our entire partnership, even before we were together, was based around acknowledging our flaws and
Mm-hmm.
talking through analyzing situations and understanding where each of us are coming from and where our friends are also coming from and like
Mm-hmm.
talking about people in the friend group. So we do this all the time. This is just how we talk. Our roommate has explicitly declined to engage in any sort of analysis of herself because she just doesn't want to be known like that.
Mm-hmm. Oh.
And so that's the and also then expressed like the I don't want to do any self-knowing either. I'm good. I'm good.
Hmm. Yeah. So some challenges of the four is that they can be moody, withdrawn, self-absorbed, overly sensitive, demanding, or unsatisfied with what is. But they have strengths that they are creative, empathetic, idealistic, capable of emotional depth and compassion. And so where the shame can give them challenges is that fours seek attention through withdrawal, which may at first seem like a contradiction. Fours withdraw to pull others in, especially into their inner world. They want others to notice their depth of character and to obtain sympathy for what they feel is their unjust suffering. Fours believe that life has dealt them a bad hand and that their underlying feeling of shame may lead to hostility against life, despair. In addition, they may feel hostility at their parents or others in their past, themselves for being defective, and at others for not recognizing how special the four is.
I just had a thought.
Mm-hmm.
So, in our re-recorded 8 episode, I
Mhm.
mentioned how Naranjo positions the 8 as opposite to the 4 in the Enneagram, where the 4 is hypersensitive, the 8 is the most insensitive, right?
Yeah.
And I just had the whole thought about that relationship and about how 4s are also doing a fucking power play. It's about control. They get to control their inner world.
Oh, yeah.
At like you're following them in, and as soon as you're in that, they're dominating that space.
Mm.
There's
Yeah.
like less of a need to feel ashamed or attacked because it's their inner world.
And then that's how they avoid it because it's there.
Because they don't have to, as if it's not external, then they don't have to confront it because the shame doesn't exist because shame is a product of society.
Oh my God, you're mind blown. You're right.
And it must be so much worse with 5s because they're already internal. And actually, the bottom of the Enneagram there's that gap between the 4 and the 5. And I feel like 4s that breach it and go into the 5 sink more into that void in that inner space.
Oh my God. You're right. I
They
can
have
kind
a
of
nullifying presence to the 8's hyper presence.
I think I feel that with my 4 wing and like having an internal world to escape to where I feel it. I don't want to touch it because I feel it.
There's your deep thoughts about 4s.
Yeah. All right. So some advice for the Heart Center. Unless, did you have anything else about 4s?
No, that's the best thought I'm gonna have all month. All the rest of our pre-recorded episodes are gonna be shitty in comparison.
All right. So just some quick advice for the Heart Center is that and so this is a quote, instead of acting quickly based on your feelings, allow yourself to think first. Think about how your shame, which is likely the deep underlying cause of your feeling reaction, affects you and those around you. I feel like this will be particularly hard for 4s as they are in the emotionally reactive triad for the harmonics triad.
You know what I would also say would be interesting?
What?
Because that's the head. That's like connecting to your head, right?
Mm-hmm.
But I would also say connect to how shame shows up in your body so that you can recognize when you do feel ashamed and label it for what it is. Because I think for me, like when I feel shame, my face gets hot, I feel tense, I feel a little bit claustrophobic, like stuff is caving in. And the more you can provide release to that and like open yourself back up physically and take deeper breaths, I think the easier it would be to unfurl some of that shame.
Yeah. So just like any other type, I think the advice for everyone is just going to be to, aside from the head type, is going to be to just stop, take a breath, analyze your feelings, analyze where they're coming from. Why are you feeling shame in this moment? Are you feeling shame in this moment? Are you just living? Yeah. Ready to wrap up?
Yep.
Okay. So our question of the month for next month is for our head types, which are the 5, 6, and 7. And the question is, what is your relationship to conspiracy theories? Do you believe any? If so, what ones? All
You
right.
know what conspiracy theory we're going to have to read about when we do this episode?
I'm not sure. Which one are you talking about? Because I have one in mind, but
Oh, what do you have in mind?
I always forget the name of it. It's the one where you remember things incorrectly.
Deja vu stuff?
No, it's the like Berenstein Bears versus Berenstein Bears. The like different spellings of things.
Oh,
The Mandela effect.
I don't know
That's
that conspiracy theory.
that's my
Already-
favorite conspiracy theory. Oh my god. Okay. But yeah.
I feel like we have to do a deep dive into flat earthers.
Yeah. Oh, yep. All right. So you should email us those answers at our email is EnneathingGoes@gmail.com, or you should tweet us those answers at EnneathingGoes. Same way it's spelled here. You should also leave us a review on iTunes or leave us a comment on the YouTube video or wherever you're listening. If they have a review or comment section, you should leave that for us.
I have one final thing to say
Mhm.
before we log off. How's our audio?
Yes. Also, answer that, please. It probably won't be fixed by the time we record the next episode because we're also trying to record that in February.
Does it help if I get really close and personal up with the mic?
That
Is this
feels a little
better?
ASMR, and it probably will be when I'm editing the audio because I'm generally louder than you.
Yeah. Does this make you uncomfortable, Maddie?
It does not. It actually makes me feel better about the audio quality
Okay.
just for this 5 seconds.
Just for this 5 seconds. Maybe I'll record all of our episodes just super close to the mic.
Yeah, that might actually work. When I edit the audio, I'll let you know.
Let me know. I can always just kind of talk into it like a walkie-talkie, you know? Hold it up to my face. Coming in. 10-4. I don't know what those numbers mean.
All right. Bye.
Bye.